It's a pretty messy job, but somebody's got to do it. Welcome to Accountable Conversations, where I am your host and founder, Dr. Henry L. Logan, and I am so happy to have you here with me on today. Listen, you are in for a treat through the Word of God as we have this discussion with one of my favorite people here in this world, none other than Kerri Holloway, which I'm going to introduce in a minute. But be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, and be sure to share this broadcast with all those that you love and care about. We're going to get right into our session on today, and I am just ready for what God is about to speak and do in this conversation. So it is my distinct honor to introduce a remarkable woman, a true vessel of God, who shows God's power and grace. Her name is Kerri Holloway, known for her divine precision and clarity in the prophetic ministry. Kerri is one with great faith, moving in undeniable power in her calling as an incredible and humble intercessor. She is unwavering in her commitment to prayer and service, standing as a pillar of strength to both those in the spiritual and personal arenas. A proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated, Kerri's leadership and service extends beyond the church walls. As an accomplished editor and publisher, she has a keen eye for detail and excellence, making her a trusted voice in the literary world. An entrepreneur at heart, she has built a career off of determination and grace. But even with all of these accolades, Kerri remains devoted to her most important roles: a loving wife, a dedicated mother, and a true friend. Her heart for people and her passion in helping others are felt by all of those who are blessed to know her. So I want you to join in with me in welcoming to Accountable Conversations for the first time, and preferably not the last time. Her name is Kerri Holloway. Kerri, welcome to you on today.
Wow. You made me sound really good. I mean, it's all true, but you made it sound, put the razzle dazzle on there.
That's who you
Thanks,
are to
sir.
me. I was up all night. Now, for those who may not know, Kerri is so humble that she was just saying to me, just call me a servant of God. That's just who I am. And just say Kerri Holloway. But of course, you, my listeners and watchers, know I just can't be normal. So I have to do a grand appreciation for this
It was
vessel.
really nice. Thank you.
Well, we're going to get into our session on today, which is called Whatever It Takes. And that's coming from Philippians 4:13, which says, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. So we're going to get right into our questions. Kerri, on today, how do you balance the idea of doing all things through Christ with the understanding of knowing your own personal limitations?
Oof. Child, listen, that is a lifelong lesson to learn. At certain points in your life, you think you got it. And as soon as you think you got it, something else happens. It's like, when you're a parent, you care for a child. It's like as soon as you get the diaper routine down, you like, we got it on lock. I know when it changes, nap time, yada, yada. Then it's like they're crawling. Then it's potty training. And then you're like, I don't know anything. You have to keep starting from scratch. So I think for me, I'm constantly like, Lord, for real, like really, what's going on today? What is this about? What am I missing? Seriously, even though me working with others, helping others in certain areas, I'm like, oh, I can do this. I can organize this, yada, yada, yada. Me, my life personally on the inside, where it's just me and the Lord talking, I'm forever like, so sometimes it's literally just like this. and I'm just talking to the Lord, like, no words, because I don't have the words to put in. If I try to put it, it's not going to be right. But then he's like
Adequate
reminding
words.
me, he keeps reminding me, he's like, if you don't trust me, I can't help you. Or, if I'm really stressed about something or another person, he's like, I love them more than you do. Or if I'm just like, God, I cannot. And you get to the end of yourself and you're like, I just got to be on my face in the floor. And you're trying to put words together. And at some point, even at that lowest instance, when you're like, I no words, you just laying out before the Lord, like, clearly you love me more than I understand. Because if it was up to me,
Ooh,
sometimes me would be like, you
yes.
know what, Kerri, you can kick rocks and exit stage left. That's me on the real. It's not glamorous. And, people, oh, you pray, you sing, or used to sing, you believe God. And for me personally, my struggle has always been that I seem to have a more forceful faith for others, especially people I love, more than me personally. And like, if I really love you, I'm ready to go. Like, it could be whatever. We're going to go and pray. The devil is lying. I don't care what the doctor said. I don't care what the lawyer said. He said, she said, we're going to go before God. And I'm, I'm all in, like, just like you would be on the streets, like, what's good for other people, for my child, for my husband, for my siblings, for my closest friends, loved ones. But then for me, for myself, I'm like, yeah, this isn't really going the way I thought it would be. And then he just keeps reminding me, like, it's okay. I know you better than you know yourself. Because sometimes I'm like, really, Kerri? What? I know it doesn't sound profound, but this is the conversations that go in my head. Even though on the outside, I don't know how it looks to other people. But to me, I'm just like, I'm yet holding on. And for me, maintaining my faith, I just know is my worst day on this side of having a relationship with Christ is still better than my best day before my relationship with him. Like, I can't go back. I just die before I can't. So
I like
sometimes
that
you push through.
that you can't go back. That just hit me right in the center of my gut. And like no matter.
Your sound went out. I don't know if it's just me. Uh-oh.
Okay, let's try again.
Oh, you got a lapel mic.
I got a lapel mic.
Woo, woo, woo.
um, I wrestle a lot of times with. We are going to try this one more time. I
Okay.
wrestle many times. Obviously, this devil don't want whatever it's about to come out of my mouth to go forth, but we take authority over that already. I wrestle many times with feeling adequate enough. I wrestle many times with having the right words to say to people. People always say how much of an encouragement I am to them. But kind of like you, in some areas, I don't always recognize what they are seeing or even what God is seeing in me. I can remember times of you being on my case many, many times, making sure that I am in my place with God, taking things day by day, step by step. And that has been a true blessing to me, that the way that you fight for me in the spirit, that has been such an encouragement to me. So do you ever really wrestle with the feeling adequate enough to be used by God, or how does that work with you?
All the time. All the time. I had years where I was like, God, I don't really need to know this stuff you're telling me, Sean. Really none of my business. Who am I to be going to these different ones and saying this, that, and the other? Who am I for you to be showing me what's behind closed doors or what's in someone's heart, knowing what I'm struggle with on my own? I'm not playing when I'm saying there are many times I'm like, I'm just yet holding on. I'm saved. That's it. That's all I got for today. And some days I feel like I'm barely there. And I know it's bad when the enemy is like, yeah, you ain't with that attitude, what you thinking, what you want to do, what you wish you want to say, you're not really saved because you're not this, that, and the third. You'll have to just remind me, like, real talk, he never used, I shouldn't say never, he rarely used the ones that were like perfect heart. There are very few that he bragged on that was like he walked in the ways of the Lord and had a close relationship. Noah was one,
Mhm.
but even Noah wasn't perfect because after the flood and they got off the boat and everything, he got drunk. Josiah, King Josiah, and he was a child king, but his heart was enough to God that when he got old enough and found those hidden scripts of the word and realized, oh, what we doing? He was like, no, I'm gonna clean out. I'm gonna get all this mess out of the temple. All these fake prophets, all these bad priests, everybody got to go. Clean house. God bragged on him. Job. And not that Job was like this perfect man, but God loved and bragged on him so much that like hell came right to his doorstep, like his bed, and got with him. So there's very few, but if you look at all the other examples from Abraham, yes, he's considered the father of faith, but like he wasn't like the best husband. He endangered his wife Sarah twice by not claiming her as his wife. Twice she could have been raped, abducted, anything because of fear. And even when she was like, well, you're not getting me pregnant. Here's Hagar, do what you do. Okay. And then when she was like, send that chick and her son out of here, they got to go. What? As much wealth as he had, he was like, cool. Here's a little piece of bread and some water. Y'all gone. He could have sent her with a caravan.
My.
But God bragged on him. David, great man of faith, great warrior of faith, horrible father, period. He didn't check his sons, even when one raped his daughter. Another son brought shame. So you can go on and on. Before Saul became Paul, he thought he was in there with God. Like, I'm a Pharisee of the Pharisees. I know I'm doing right. He was persecuting the Christians. He held the coats when they stoned Stephen to death. But he thought he knew God. So God just will just show me like, hey, I work with the folks. I'm looking at the heart. I don't care if you're a harlot or a drunk or a murderer, Moses, Rahab, harlot.
I'm on Rahab.
At the well. Right. Women don't fool with you. So you at the well at high time, high noon. That's not the time that women went to the well. She knew all the men in town. But he doesn't care about that. He's like, I'm looking at the heart. I'm not looking at the outside. You look at the outside, you all pick King Saul. I look at the inside.
Aren't you glad that he looks at the heart rather than our actions?
Exactly. And that's why he picked David. And even with all of David's faults, with his adultery and setting up Uzziah, not Uzziah. Oh, what was that? She's the husband's name. Uriah, who was one of his mighty men of valor, by the way, which is why it was so shameful what he did. Even after all that he'd done, all the wrong, every time he kept going back to God, like, Lord, I'd rather be punished by you than by my enemies, whatever you say, do. God bragged on him to Solomon. So by that time, David was old, but he was still like, yeah, but his heart was towards me. So that's why I love him. So I'm just like, I guess I'm in the mix. Fit right in.
Can you let me know, have you ever dealt with feeling that other people are more worthy to be used than what you are? And the reason I asked that question, because I have always wanted to be in a certain realm with God, and I admire the prophetic. I admire strong people in the prophetic. I look up to quite a few in the prophetic, one being you. If I can tell this little story real quick, we really didn't have a major relationship or anything years ago, but I can remember being in service one day with you at my former church, our second location. And I remember you standing up in the midst of service after praise had gone forth and tongues exhortation began to go forth. And I remember you standing up and screaming out someone's name in the midst of service. And initially it was shocking, like, who is this that she's calling? Like, who is that? And it was my godmother, her son, that you had called out. And I knew right then, like, this woman of God is powerful as they come. For you to have such clarity and the precision that you operate in, that just blew me away. And I would always tell God, God, I want a gift like Kerri, where I'm precise with names, or I can call out certain things. And I have wrestled with that by making comparisons. How can comparing yourself to others, be a help or a hindrance to the work that God may be trying to do in you personally?
I don't think it's good to compare yourself because you're always going to find someone that you think is better, stronger, smarter, more anointed, more whatever. Same as you can find someone that you're like, oh, I feel like I'm better than, more, you know, more talented. You're always going to find someone you think is behind you or ahead of you, but you don't know what it took for them to get there.
Ooh, that price.
You don't know what it cost for them to be in that place. That was never anything that I sought for myself. It's just always been there. And as a child, I didn't understand what it was. I remember vividly there were multiple times as a child I'd be out with my mom somewhere and something would happen and I'd be like, Mommy, I saw that.
Mm,
Whatever happened. It didn't have to be like a car accident or something. We could just be somewhere and like two people got into an argument and it looked like they were going to come to fight and then something unique happened. And I would say, I saw that. He said this, she did that. And see how they're doing this? They're going to call the
yes.
police, but the cop isn't going to come in. He's going to go catch somebody that's trying to steal. And as I'm telling her about that, stuff like that would happen all
My,
the time. And I didn't know. And she was just like, well, baby, that's kind of deja vu, or you having dreams or whatever. And I was just like, okay. As a kid, you don't get it, what that is. And then years later in adulthood, I still didn't really know what it was, but it really became strong for me once I finally said yes to the Lord. And it took a lot for that to happen in that place. Raised in the church, my mom taught Sunday school and stuff. So it's like, you know better. But when you get on your own, you're like, oh, I'm going to do this, that, and the third. And there were multiple instances that happened before I got saved. It was like, hey, God's not playing with you. Like, I remember being at a service with one of my roommates one time, and the pastor was preaching, and what he was talking about was specifically for me, and I really wasn't paying any attention. I was just messing around. We were probably talking or whatever. A light bulb fell out of the ceiling, and this wasn't like a
my,
regular ceiling. You know, some of those older churches that are like 2-story high or whatever. It
yes.
fell out of the ceiling, fell on my shoulder, and fell on the seat. It did not break. I was like, oh, okay. And the pastor was like, clearly that was for you. Moving on, turn two. And I was like, what? And then I can remember another time, um, a friend and I were like at the mall, and there was like a lady there who was like a palm reader and was like into crystals and all that stuff. And I was like, girl, that crystal stuff ain't nothing. She's like, oh, I can also read your palm and do your zodiac and yada yada. So she did my friend. And when she came to me, I was like, eh. And she got this look on her face, like scared to death. And she was like, And she was like, God said, keep playing. Stop playing. You know what you got to do. You don't have a lot of time left. I'm not going to keep circling back around for you. And it was almost like God had stopped her in the middle of her spiel. And she was like, "Ooh," and she was talking directly to me. And I was like, oh. And like she clicked out of it and was back to the whoever was waiting next to us, like, I can do your poem. But like her voice and her whole everything, I was like, snap. And God was like, okay. So when I finally was like, yes, okay, I give up. I'm gonna be safe, real, and like yielded. And that wasn't long after that, maybe a few weeks in the service. And it wasn't like a regular service, it was some conference in like this arena. And that night, it was like my spirit and like my brain exploded. He wouldn't let me speak. And I'm saying this was like some, whatever kind of conference is an arena. Prayer time, I was like, yes, Lord. By the time I got up off the floor or whatever he had me, the arena was empty. The janitors were sweeping up. They had broken down the stage and my friends were just waiting on me and I still couldn't speak. And as I was walking out with him, I couldn't speak, but he was letting me hear people's conversations in their head, things they were struggling with. He was showing me like, this one's dealing with a cancer diagnosis. This one just got raped. This one lost their job. This one's thinking about killing themselves. It was crazy. But on the outside, they just like regular people walking. And I was like, oh, okay, what do I do with this? And he would let me know different things just because he shows me something. Sometimes it's super frustrating because he's like, just pray. But when he gives me to speak, it's very specific. He's like, go to them and tell them I said. And when it's super specific, I write it down and I don't wait. I waited once and I will never do that again because I thought in my mind, oh, I didn't see her tonight. I'll see her at tomorrow night's service or whatever. She didn't come. And a few days later, what God had meant was something completely different. That person ended up dying.
Wow.
But it wasn't a bad thing. But in my mind, when he was like, oh, I'm going to heal her quickly. I thought quickly meant, oh, she's finally going to be better. In days, she was gone. So after that, I was like, oh no, if he gives me specific, I'm chasing people down. There have been times I've looked for you and be like, hey,
true,
I'm coming over. And you'd be like, well, I'm not really. I said, put some pajamas on or whatever. I'm outside. I can't play with people's mail like that.
See, you got on me before telling me about being in my place and doing what I needed to do. And I felt I had time or I was doing enough in the moment to please God. But God used you during the time that I was severely addicted to drugs, even to the point where I had overdose and had to be placed on a respirator for a few days. And I can remember telling my mom and family that should anything ever happen with me, kind of like what happened, me being on the respirator and all that, there's only a few people that I want you to call because I want them to come and be able to pray over me. That's Pastor Katrina Wallace, that's yourself, and it's another friend of mine who I love dearly. Y'all are literally the only three that I'm like, if I'm ever in anything serious, I need you to call these prophets because I definitely need to find out what I need to do or what turn I need to make to get back in right standing with God. So in saying that, I thank you so much for you always being that bulldog of sorts. And if God gives you something, you've always come to me, whether I agreed with it or not, or whether I was going to walk it out or not. One thing I can say, you definitely hear from God. You definitely move as God tells you to move. And if God does not have you to speak, I have seen myself that you will not speak, even though you may know you won't speak it. And so with this scripture that we're reading today, the I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. Uh, can you tell me how you can inspire someone who may be feeling weak or inadequate? We have faith that we can do all of these things, but even in having faith to do it, we're not putting the work with it. So what can you say to those who may be feeling inadequate or weak in the area to know that they can actually do what God said they can do?
And it doesn't seem to make sense, but like God, he knows like everything and he can see everything. And even the things that we can see and we think we know, whatever that is, like you as a parent, like, I know my kid, no kid, but you don't know all of them. You don't know their insides and their heart, even your own self. And you've been with yourself your whole life. You would think nobody knows me better than me, but God knows like so much more. And in those times when you're like, I'll just use me. I'm continually like, I feel like God, when he said something to me or showed me, I'm like, yeah, it's wrong number. Or I'm like, even, when I knew this was coming, I'm like, God, I'm in a really rough neighborhood of myself right now. And it's a strange thing to be in, that I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is, but I know I don't like it. And I'm tired of being here, but he hasn't given me direction, like turn left, turn right, go forward, bag up. It's just like, be still and let's work some things out. When you're at your weakest, that's like the best time to go to him. A lot of people, when they feel like, of course, when you're in like dire trouble, doctors say this, lawyer says that, or, the bank says, and it's like, oh God. But it's even better when you're within yourself, that you're just like, God, I can't do even left foot, right foot. That's the best time to just go to him and be like, I cannot. I need you. And you just laid out before him, and you like realize in yourself how small and insignificant you are compared to everything else that's in the world. And I don't know how he does that, to have that within himself, to love and care for and know all the details of all 8 billion plus of us. But he does. And the things that seem so earth-shattering to you in your world, in your situation, are so minute. I don't have the money to pay these bills. Somebody's out there homeless with no bills. And then the person that's homeless with no bills is like, man, I don't have a roof over my head. The person is completely desolate and is like, not only am I out on the streets, I can't find food in the trash to eat. There is no nothing.
Right.
Or the person is like, I got pain in my body. This hurts, that hurts. There's someone else that's laid up in the bed that feels nothing because they're completely paralyzed. But maybe they can still speak and, look at things. Whereas a person who's like completely sick can't do anything, can't see, hear, drink, feel. There's always going to be someone else's situation. But even in all that, he's like, that's when you can go to him. That's when you can go to him and just be like, this is what I'm struggling with. This does not feel good. I'm angry, I'm afraid, I'm anxious, I'm upset, whatever, I'm confused. I want to quit, I want to run, I want to die, I want to kill somebody. Whatever it is you're feeling, that you can go to him and he can walk you through, okay, this is what it's really about. And taking that time that you're really before him. And it doesn't mean when you come out of prayer before him like that he gives you all the answers, but you have a peace in that particular situation where he may just say, okay, for tomorrow, you need to do this. And for the day after that, you need to not go there. Don't take that person's call. Or don't eat this. Don't read that. For tomorrow, you need to just do this. And sometimes if you're in a really stuck place, you may have to just be like, God, give me what I need to do between now and when I go to bed tonight. Or if you're in a tighter spot, hey, it's 5:00. I need you to help me make it to 5:30. I need you to help me make it to 5:10. Whatever that is that you're struggling with, and he can do it.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, in these last few minutes that we have about 5 minutes left. I'm going to end with this question. In what ways does this verse speak of the importance of recognizing, how does it help you to recognize the importance of humility in trusting God rather than trusting yourself? Because we know we can't do things in our own accord. So, what assurity do we have that God is not only hearing us, but He's moving for us at the same time?
Man, you listen. Sometimes you don't learn to be humble until something's happened that will humble you.
Ooh, yes, ma'am.
I'm a personal witness.
Yes, ma'am.
You think you like, oh, I got this right here, whatever that thing is. And you're like, oh, I may not know everything, but about this, you got to check in and ask, especially for even for those type of things, whatever your thing is. I know about food, or I know about these kids. I know whatever your thing is. Hey, God, this is my idea. This is what I want to do. I'm going to do it like that, 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 that. Is there anything that I need to be paying attention to before I get started? Is there something I should change? Is this a good plan, what I set out? Because I know it worked like gangbusters last time. You don't know what's coming up. And
Yeah.
there's multiple examples of that in the Bible where, Israel's going to war and they're like, well, should I go up? Should I go up? And it happened multiple times with David. The Lord was like, yeah, go get him. You're going to get him. Go get him. Other times, should I go? No, just wait a minute. Hang out in the cut. I got something. I'm working on something. You only have to do it. But if he had just gone in like without checking to see, it could have gone all bad.
Yes. I, I feel you on that. And man, you have really blessed me on today in knowing how to lean and depend upon God in all that I do. We have about 2 minutes left, but I've learned how to definitely trust God. And kind of like you said, sometimes you don't learn that until you're in the midst of something and going through. And then having two strokes within my life, I don't remember things like I used to, or I can always recall things right on back like I used to. It's that aphasia that goes on. And so I know in things like now, the show and moving forward in that, I have to lean and depend on God for all of that, because I can't do it in my own self based upon what medical says. And so I want to say thank you so much, Kerri, for coming to Accountable Conversations on today, to have this conversation with me. Between you and James Jr., who will be on next month, y'all have been, and I say y'all, have been two of my dream guests to have on here. And so in this last minute and a half that we have, could you just seal this with a prayer for those who may be out watching this, to ask God to help them to get into place and do what God has called them to do? And that's how we're going to end this session in the last minute.
Okay. Well, God, I thank you for today. I thank you for another occasion for those that love you to be encouraged and to hear others' testimony, because you never know what people are going through. But for whoever is listening, I just want you to know that as long as you have breath in your body, it's not too late. It doesn't matter what other people say. It doesn't matter what the situation looks like, circumstance. When I say I'm a witness, I was there when you were in the hospital and the doctors were like, it's a 50-50. You could go today, tomorrow, we don't know. And I was like, no, absolutely not, because God said.
Not happening.
I didn't have an explanation for it. I clearly don't have a medical degree, but I just want you to know, as long as you're living, you still have a chance.